Hi everyone, it's Jerry. Let's have a look at a game from round 8 of the Altibox Norway Chess Tournament 2020. A battle of the Norwegians in this round. On the white end, Magnus Carlsen, and he's paired against Aryan Tari. So let's hop right to it. Carlsen opening with e4. Tari replying with e5. We have a Ruy Lopez. To be a bit more exact, it's a closed system. Carlsen's quite fond of the d3 move. He's played it many times now. e4 is now secure, and because of this, there's now a threat to take the knight and take on e5. Black defends against that and secures his e-pawn, threatening to now hunt the bishop. That's addressed. There's a square for the bishop. Bishop d7. Some prep work for central expansion. Knight a5 hits. And this time there's two options now that c3 is in. Backs up to a2. Computer likes c2, staying trained on a4 in a spot to immediately recapture should black pull the trigger on that move. This is a suggestion for many moves in this game. If black takes this pawn, first of all, there's no guarantee black gets to hang on to it. Black is also taking away from the center. That's anti-positional. c4 is the big square that's given up. You can see a knight leaping in there soon. If white wants to regain the pawn, he can invest these tempi in there and pick up the pawn like that. After the smoke clears, what can we say? a6 isn't too bright. It's isolated and will likely be a big target for the white pieces. So, what does black play? It's the opening. You have to get castled, right? c5. Okay. Why not castles? Well, if castles, there's b4, and after knight c6, this pawn isn't having too much fun. Can't move. So, on this move 10, black makes sure he gets the move in that white has the potential to stop. White cannot stop castles. Castles can wait. c5 first. So this pawn's voice will be heard. It will have an influence on the center. At the same time, notice the d5 square. It's a hole in black's camp and is a big focal point for the rest of this game. Ideally, what would white like to have happen? A knight on the d5 square against a bad bishop. This guy in e7. Bishop g5 is a step in that direction, a step towards realizing that scenario. White wants to eliminate the pieces that can control the d5 square. I'm not just talking about any pieces. I'm talking about the minor pieces in particular. Both knights and the light square bishop are the ones that can control d5. Okay, black castles only now. Knight d2 is met with next rook b8. So once more, black can take on a4, and this may turn out to be a pawn white cannot so easily regain. You'll notice in this position, now that the bishop is on g5, it's not around to watch over b2. It can be quite a convenient defender when it's still on that home square. Black can put some pressure on it, so this can cause white some inconvenience. It might not be so smooth in regaining, it may not be so smooth for white to regain the a4 pawn. Okay, black never goes forward with that capture. Rook b8 it is. Things seem to flow a bit more natural, not taking away from the center. After rook to b8, a takes b. Only after the rook has abandoned the a file, white takes on b5. Notice the timing, right? Aha, I have this file all to myself. Okay, from here it's rook e1. Typical reposition for this queen knight. The second ranked knight needs some work. It's not happy on the second rank. Black follows up with b4. This move is making it easier for white to one day realize this good knight versus bad bishop scenario. These knights are going to be exchanged in a blink now. c4 is opened up, and we'll just be moments away from a light square bishop exchange, and this can happen at any point. So a different idea, and I'm touching on a different idea here because soon, and by soon I mean move 20, black is kind of in a position where he kind of shuffles, and the character of the position, there's no longer good moments to change the character of the position. A suggestion here for black is to play knight c6 and not give up that c4 square. After knight c6, or if knight c6 was played instead of b4, if white continues on this path to pivot on f1, black can look forward to maybe an idea like this, saying, let's trade my bad bishop for your good bishop. I want to keep this guy around to watch over the d5 square. So something like this, the knight can return, and black has a strong defender of this weakened d5 square. If we consider a different move, let's say instead of knight f1, white says, oh, I'm going to swipe the knight while I have the chance, and then play here. Well, now we have this as a way to at least provide some cover for the d5 square. So these are some different imbalances that we can see for black. Or these are some different paths black can choose in order to help remedy the weakened d5 square. Okay. In this game, c4, the knights are exchanged, the b file is completely opened, the rooks are both connected, and the light square bishops are exchanged. This was kind of awkward for me to see. Black kind of make it a little bit easier for white to have the strong knight versus bad bishop position. But then again, this guy is standing pretty good. Opposite the king, again, this is probably always going to be a focal point, f7. It's a strong piece. Black is looking to get rid of it. So bishop b5 it is. The exchange is welcome. Another exchange on board. Many steps have been taken to take advantage of this weakened d5 square. At this point, it's just a matter of throwing the knight there. It takes 4 moves. That's step 1 of 4. Get some moves in here. This one right here, bishop to e7, I thought, well, if white is looking to one day get into that d5 square, isn't this an idea? You watch over e3. It does stop knight e3, but this square has some pressure on it. So what does this knight post on c4? It's not just about a knight on d5. A knight on c4 is excellent as well. If bishop is playing here, stopping the knight, this queen is constantly having to defend d6. So that's an inconvenience for black. It's going to be awkward one way or another because of this pesky knight. He's a real powerhouse in this game from this point on, whether on c4 or d5. So with bishop to e7, what can we say? Black is allocating the bishop to the d6 pawn. The bishop is responsible for defending that point. The least valuable piece in the position watches over this guy. All right. Flight square for white. A flight square for black. Some small improvements on white side, king g2, queen on f3. She is excellently placed on f3, safeguarding the king should there be some attack against the white king. It's difficult to see how an attack even surfaces against the white king. Excellently placed here, good defender, if need be, for the white king. She is more so, in my opinion, seen as an offensive piece from f3, raking this f-file. f7 and f6 will soon be, we'll see white start to connect on those squares. This position, it's a classic good knight versus bad bishop, something you'd see in a chess book under the strategic topics. All right, let's see how things follow up here. White has to babysit a little bit. c3. From here, queen e6. This rook is very active. Black neutralizes it. One rook is exchanged. Open file for white. The bishop is pinned. And black is out of the pin. King g7. And from here, knight to e3. So, angling for the d5 square. It's a difficult position for black, but there is still hope. This is black's last chance to find some way to neutralize the knight when it's on the d5 square. The move played in the game is rook c7. And it's lost for black after that move. The best move in this position is queen to d7. And after knight d5, bishop to e7. I had a look at rook to a7. I thought initially one of the ideas with queen d7 was to continually attack this rook. And, if he goes here, some idea like this, eventually forcing some repetition, or the rooks have to be exchanged. That would not be a good idea for black in this position. After knight d5, if black follows with rook a7, it's a checkmate in 4, kicking off with queen f6. And, well, we can have this as a checkmate sequence. So, no rook a7. This is the best defense for black. Queen d7 and knight e7, first controlling f6. And then let's say after h4, now black can try to eliminate the rook. Something like this, repetition, or the rooks are exchanged. I believe what I'm getting to here is that this right here is the best black can hope for to work with the queen and bishop versus queen and knight. As we will soon see, the white rook is a huge pest, constantly observing either the 7th or 8th rank, and black is not able to neutralize it. And when you combine that with the powerful knight on the d5 square, it's simply overwhelming for black's position. So this was the last chance for black. Needed to play queen d7, bishop e7, and then try and get the rooks off. Okay. Rook c7 was played, knight d5, rook c8. Whenever this offer of an exchange is there, white simply ducks it. No way. I have an active rook, you have a passive rook, you're in a closed file. Play follows with rook to b8. If black tries to change the structure with c4, that's no problem, we can take. Many times this is seen as a success for black. These pawns are now accessible to the rook, but e4 is secure, and this knight says, yeah, I have c3 covered, no problem. So, no great progress is made if black goes with c4. Rook b8 in this game. And I'll throw a pop quiz your way. White to move. What do you think Carlsen plays next, what would be your plan at this stage for white? What's your move? Feel free to pause the video. Okay, the move is h3. A baby move. One little step with the pawn. There isn't a way to improve the rook, the knight, the queen. No king move is going to be any good. No pawn moves are really helping over here. h3 is looking to one day establish a pawn on the g5 square. Why g5? Well, that's where we start to see many of the white pieces intersecting. We already have the queen and knight. Get a pawn there, and all of a sudden the knight is ready to jump towards the king. Okay. After h3, it's rook d8, g4, rook d7, it's declined, rook to a8, and now we have f6. So another move, you know, black knows that this is happening soon, so are there ways to stop it? Not really. If you play g5, this knight's eyes light up. He's already happy about having the d5 square. He'll be even happier getting to f5 with check. Okay, so g5 wouldn't be good. What about bishop e7? Is that interfering with g5? Well, yeah, but now you're in a giant pickle. How are you untangling? You're not. Nearby, there's queen h3 and look out, mate on h8. So bishop e7 is not going to help. f6 is tried. g5 anyway. This pawn is pinned to the f-file. Queen takes f8. So f5 is tried. The queen is no longer seeing h3. Queen h3. I like to pause at this moment and point out some things about this position that I think can be useful for those of you who may be looking to improve your game. I want you to consider a couple things here, a couple components of this position. Consider first the white position and take stock of what black pieces or pawns are in white's house and what intersection squares there are in white's house. Where do two or more black pieces or pawns converge? Well, the first component, black pieces in white's house, doesn't exist. Simple enough. Intersection squares, there's one on d4. Considering now black's side, just drawing some lines in here. First of all, we can look at, well, we have what pieces are pawns in black's house. We have a pawn, a knight, and a rook. And looking at the intersection squares, we have f6. We also have h6. And we can also identify the h8 square. Even though the rook isn't seeing it directly, we can say that the bishop is pinned. So black is seriously restricted. It is as if black is only playing on 3 ranks in this position and is completely tied up. Many of these intersection squares are made use of in this final combination by Carlsen. White is clearly in the driver's seat. Okay. The threat here, by the way, is to play to h6 and next win the bishop. So with black's next move, he defends against that, secures the bishop. And one more pop quiz. What is Carlsen's next move? Feel free to pause the video. Okay, here we go. There are many wins. This is the flashy one, the one tactic in this game. This move 42, made possible in large part because of all of these positional advantages, positional pluses that white has accumulated. The move played, rook to e8. looking to distract the queen from her defense of g6. Queen takes, rook follows. Queen enters on h6 with check, g6 with check. There are only 3 legal moves now. White's down a rook, but has a winning attack with the queen and this powerhouse knight. Powerhorse is ready to jump in. What does black play? If you block with the rook, you drop the queen. If you block with the bishop, you're also going to drop the queen. Knight f6, exploiting this pin. If rook takes knight, queen takes queen, queen check, and a queen combined with 2 connected passed pawns on the 5th are too much for black to handle. The third option is the move played in the game, king h8. But after knight f6, black resigns. What do you do? White's threatening mate on g8, and also to simply take the queen. No good solution for black. Take the knight. Again, you lose the queen, and you're going to lose one of these 2 next. No good solution here. We don't even take the queen after bishop g7. That would be mate. Queen and knight are too much. So, let's have a look at one photo here, courtesy of Leonard Otis, capturing this final moment. Aryan Tari stopping the clock. He's had enough, and he resigned, knows that there's no good solution here. So let's have a look at the tail of the tape on this one. Here we go. So what can we say here? After knight b to d2, that's where it was suggesting b takes a4, maybe one of the better moments to play that anti-positional, taking away from the center. Black is up a pawn, but squares are given up. Instead, it was rook to b8. And the other key moment, this really doesn't show up so much on this graph. You know, it goes from the 0.5, and then after b4, it goes to 0.7. But this was really a serious, like, something else. I was pointing out knight c6 instead, trying to arrive at a different minor piece setup. Giving up that c4 square made life, again, a lot more easy for white to realize one day a really strong knight versus bad bishop position. And then finally, even though black was in that difficult spot trying to defend with that really bad bishop, tall pawn, there was one chance for maybe a regrouping after knight to e3, rook c7, and then it was completely lost. He had to try at that point. Queen d7, bishop e7. And it's just a growing advantage from there. At the end of the day, what do we have? Average centi-pawn loss for Carlsen, 11 to Tari's 32. Okay. As usual, feel free to leave any feedback to this video in the comment section below. I hope you enjoyed it and maybe took a thing or two away. That's all for now. Take care.